Good morning. Most of you who are viewing this video know me, but for those of you who I haven't met, I'm John Onembo. I'm Plaza's General Counsel working out of our New York office. First off, I'd like to say that I hope all of you and your families are safe and healthy and that you're doing what you can to remain that way. I put together this video to help people clarify some confusion regarding what's going on in the industry right now, and also to give you guidance on what we should be doing over the next few weeks or several months to protect Plaza's interests and to make sure that we get paid for our services by our owners. First, I want to clear up a little bit of confusion. I've received a number of phone calls and emails from people looking for a copy of the governor's executive order halting construction. The reason you can't find the order is that there is no such executive order. What was done was, prior to this past Friday, construction was defined as an essential business and therefore was not impacted by the governor's orders to reduce staff and then to shut down completely. However, effective this past Friday morning, the definition of essential business changed, and it shows up on the Empire State Development website. And you can go there to find it. It's at esd.ny.gov, and you click on the tab for ESD Guidance on Essential Businesses. If you go to paragraph 9, you can see the definition of what constitutes an essential business for construction. First, it says that all non-essential construction must shut down except for emergency construction. And then it goes on to say what the state considers essential, effective this past Friday at 11 a.m. And essential construction is roads, bridges, transit facilities, utilities, hospitals or healthcare facilities, affordable housing, and homeless shelters. Now, as far as I know, we don't have any projects in New York that would fit under any of those categories, and so therefore all of our projects have to be shut down. Now, if any of you think that you have a project that might fit within that definition, please contact me. And I'm in the Plaza directory, but just in case you don't have access to the directory, my email address, just like everybody else in Plaza, is first initial, last name. That's JONNEMBO at plazaconstruction.com. And my cell phone number is 201-328-4116. By the way, if you look at that order, it says that there's a $10,000 per occurrence fine for violations of the order. And we're going to go back to that in a little while to talk about why that's relevant to us, even if we have jobs shut down, because that fine will still be in existence when the jobs restart. And by the way, the governor's executive order right now extends till April 17th. It is likely to be extended, but right now it goes to April 17th. So what should you be doing in response to that order? First thing is, you probably already have, shut down your jobs. You can't put any new work in place. The only thing that you were permitted to do is do whatever was necessary to make the job safe. Now, you could continue, if you couldn't get the job safe by the end of Friday, you were allowed to continue into Saturday and today, Sunday, until the job was safe. But once it's safe, you have to shut down. Now, we drafted a form letter that Tom Dercole circulated to all the project teams that you should be sending to the owner. If you haven't already done so, you have to send it right away, telling the owners what we are doing in response to the change in definition of essential business. And we're telling the owner we shut down, we made the job safe, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we've done so far, and as I said, if you haven't sent that letter out yet, you have to do so right away. If you can't get a copy from from Tom Dercole, contact me and I'll get you a copy. So what should you be doing going forward? Well, the first thing you need to be doing is making sure you are communicating with your owner about what should be done on the job site. And in particular, I'm talking about what should be done to preserve the work in place. And an example would be if you've got hardwood floors that might warp or get damaged if the HVAC system isn't on, you should confirm with the owner that the owner wants the HVAC system left on, and the owner is going to commit to pay for whatever the charges are. If the owner directs you not to leave the HVAC system on, you should confirm in writing with the owner that they've directed that you not leave the HVAC system on. Now, that's just an example. There are other things that you might have to do to preserve the work in place, or to make sure that the work in place is not damaged or doesn't deteriorate. But you should confirm with the owner and get guidance from the owner. We shouldn't be the ones making the decision as to what has to be done. You can make recommendations to the owner, but the owner makes the final decision. That's number one. The next thing you should be doing is pushing the owner for a commitment to pay for our services during the time of the suspension of work by the government. Now, you may get pushback. As a matter of fact, you're almost certain to get pushback from owners because owners are suffering financially too, and they're going to be looking for every excuse possible not to pay us. I've reviewed a number of contracts so far, and every single contract I've reviewed so far has a clause somewhere in the contract that says that in the event of a suspension of work by a government order, the owner has to pay for the cost of shutting the job down, maintaining services during the shutdown, and restarting the job. It's either, and you should read your contract. If you haven't already read your contract, you should make sure that you do. It will appear in either the suspension of work clause or the clause that talks about force majeure or unavoidable delay. If you can't find it in your contract, contact me and I'll tell you where it is. Now, we have had some owners push back already. One owner, for example, said that they wanted us to see if we could get compensated from the government under the stimulus package that was just signed by President Trump on Friday. Our answer to that should be, that's not our responsibility. We're going to try to get compensated from every source possible, whether it be insurance or the stimulus package or whatever else might be available. But if we are not able to, it's the owner's responsibility to pay for our services, and we shouldn't have to wait for payment. We can tell the owner we'll assist them in getting reimbursed, but it's their obligation to pay us. The analogy I would use is a builder's risk claim when the owner has the builder's risk insurance. I'm sure you've all been in situations where there's a builder's risk claim and the owner wants us to do the corrective work and our subcontractors to incur hundreds of thousands of dollars in costs or more, and then wait for payment while the owner fights for the next 2 years with their builder's risk carrier. That's not the way it's supposed to work. The owner's supposed to pay us and to get reimbursed from their builder's risk carrier, and this situation is exactly the same. So, the next step we need to do to make sure we get paid is carefully read the notice and documentation of claims provisions in your contract, and make sure we follow them to the T. As I said, owners are going to be looking for excuses not to pay us, and will use as a defense that we didn't comply with the notice and documentation provisions in the contract. Now, my suggestion to you, in order to make sure that we comply, is you should appoint one person on the project team who is responsible for making sure on a daily basis that we submit to the owner whatever we're supposed to submit. And the reason that you have one person responsible for it is that if you tell everybody on the team to make sure they comply, things will slip through the cracks. So that one person may not be the person who actually submits things, but that's the person who should be checking every day with everybody on the project team. Is there anything that we should be submitting to the owner regarding a notice of claim, and have we done it? And if we haven't done it, that person should make sure that it gets done. Now, what should you do when you get letters from subcontractors saying that they have a claim as a result of the suspension of work and the delay? Well, we're going to prepare a form letter that will circulate to you that says that you should send to the subcontractor that says essentially, we have a very strict no damage for delay provision in our subcontract, so your claim might be barred by that. However, we are submitting your claim to the owner, and whatever compensation we are able to obtain from the owner on your behalf, we will pass down to you. We've protected ourselves on both ends. We've asserted our defense to the subcontractor, and we've made sure that we've filed the claim with the owner so we don't miss any notification or claims documentation requirements in our subcontract. Next, even though the owner is obligated to pay for whatever costs we incur, we have an affirmative obligation to, the legal term is mitigate damages. Well, what does mitigate damages mean? It means we have to spend as little as possible during this shutdown period, because the owner is only obligated to pay what is quote-unquote commercially reasonable. So what can we do to mitigate damages? Obviously, eliminate any unnecessary expenditures. We should also contact vendors who provide things like the office trailers, the hoist, the tower crane if we have one, about getting a reduction in rent during the period of time when it is not in use. Now, we have a contract with the vendors that says we have to pay during this period, but all of our vendors are probably worried about getting paid also, and they might be willing to reduce the rental rates if they get some assurance of payment, maybe a payment in advance, or quicker turnaround for the regular pay requisitions. If the vendor is willing to do that, we should present that to the owner and let the owner make the decision whether they want to take advantage of that any possible discount. So that's one thing we can do. The other thing we can do, and we should always communicate with the owner, is ask the owner for suggestions as to what they want us to do to reduce our costs. Now, project managers, what should you be doing during this shutdown time? Well, one thing is you should look at it as an opportunity to catch up on all the paperwork that you fall behind on every single project. And that's not a criticism of you, because I know that it happens on every single project that is built, because the amount of paperwork and electronic exchange of documentation that you have to deal with on a regular basis is ridiculous. So take the opportunity to catch up on all of the paperwork. You should confirm with the owner that they do want us to continue procuring from subcontractors. That if subcontractors are already manufacturing, that they want us to tell the subcontractors to continue manufacturing. If the subcontracts are doing shop drawings or engineering, confirm with the owner whether they want us to tell the subcontractors to put that on hold. Ask the owner. Don't make those decisions on your own. You can make recommendations to the owner about what you think they should do, but let the owner make the decision and make sure that you confirm it. Now, if that is a conversation during a regular OAC meeting, you put it in the meeting minutes. But if it's in a phone call with the owner, as soon as you hang up the phone, send the owner a confirming email saying, "Dear Mr. Owner, this will confirm that you have directed me to have this subcontractor continue with their engineering, subcontractor X continue with procurement, but you want subcontractor Y to put their work on hold for now." Make sure you confirm it with the owner. There are some material vendors who are also on hold. I know of one project where the kitchen cabinets are being manufactured in Canada, and in Quebec all factories had to shut down. So we should ask the owner, what do you want us to do? Do you want us to start sourcing other available kitchen cabinets, or do you want to stay the course with this with this supplier? Owner's decision. But you should be presenting options, and you should be making suggestions to the owner. Consider it like value engineering suggestions. The other thing that you need to be doing is, since you're all going to be working remotely, you need to be able to document that you are actually working. Now, an extreme example of what lawyers do to document their time, I don't know if you've ever seen a lawyer's bill, but they break their day down into 6-minute increments and bill by the 10th of the hour. They'll say, phone call from client regarding scheduling of deposition, 0.1 hour. You don't need to do that. But if you're spending 3 hours reviewing submittals or reviewing PCIs or reviewing or doing estimating on PCIs, at the end of that 3 hours, just jot down that you spent 3 hours doing that. Keep a pad next to where you're working and jot down what you do on a daily basis. So if there's ever a question whether you were sitting home doing nothing, you can say, no, this is what I was doing all day. Now, a lot of the communication is going to be electronic, so it'll be automatically documented because there's going to be an email chain. But when you're doing things like making phone calls, jot it down. Now, superintendents, what you're going to be doing while the job shut down will be a little less obvious than what project managers are doing. First thing you should be doing is assisting the project managers with any paperwork that you can help with. But the other thing you should be doing is focusing on what you do on a daily basis. Make sure all of your superintendent's daily reports are up to date. Make sure that anything else that you had to do that you may have fallen behind on is up to date. You should also be planning for when we go back to work. It is highly unlikely that at some point in the near future there's going to be a complete rescission of the stop work order. It is likely going to be a slow ramp up of construction. So we're not going to be able to just flood the job site with 300 workers like we did before. we are probably going to have to slowly get back to work and make sure we still adhere to the social distancing requirements. Now, social distancing is tough on a construction site, but going back to the $10,000 fines that I mentioned a little while ago, there's a clause in the guidance from the ESD that says that the building department is going to be out inspecting job sites that are essential to make sure that on the essential jobs, social distancing is being observed. Well, when you go back to work on your non-essential projects, social distancing is going to have to be observed. It's not, as I said, it's not easy on a construction site, so you have to start thinking creatively about how we're going to do that and think about the logistics. Certain examples. Instead of having 30 workers working on one floor, have 10 working on each of 3 floors. Instead of having 3 different trades working on one floor, have them working on other floors. Now, that may or may not be possible, but you need to be investigating all of these possibilities. You need to be looking at the schedule. You need to be looking at logistics plans. You need to be talking to all of the subcontractors and getting their input on how their trades can observe social distancing. Some trades it's harder than others. Drywall, it's easy. You can have only 2 drywallers working in a given apartment in a building. Installation of curtain wall, it's not as easy. You have 4 guys working on one panel. But you should be exploring opportunities. Think about how you can spread the work out on the job site. Thinking about how we can schedule the hoist, because you can't have as many men going up and down the hoist. Think about the possibility of staggering hours for different trades. Now, all of this is going to have a productivity impact. All of this is going to have a cost impact. Could have a cost impact and productivity act. But you need to be thinking about those things and planning for those things and communicating with your owners about what your plan is going to be for starting the job up once we're allowed to go back to work. Now, there's a lot of questions you may have. There are a lot of things that I haven't addressed in this video. As I said, you can reach out to me. I gave you my contact information, jonembo@plazaconstruction.com, 201-328-4116. We also have Steve Gentoso. For those of you who don't know Steve, Steve is another lawyer who works in our New York office, who was a project manager, so he has a lot of project experience. Steve is Gentoso, Gentoso, @plazaconstruction.com, and his phone number is 646-734-8393. We're here to help you, and don't hesitate to reach out to us. Good luck, and make sure you stay safe and healthy. Thank you.